Is Satan using you, against your spouse? I want to talk about this, brothers and sisters. This is going on in marriages across the world. You start off all lovey-dovey. You start off like you against the world, you and your spouse, power team, power couple, power, power, power. And then all of a sudden, things change. I want to talk about these things. You and your spouse should not be enemies. You and your spouse, I'm going to say it again, should never be enemies. It happens though. Oh yeah. You have spouses out there that are downright get to the point where they're ready to poison their spouses. They're ready to hire hitmen to kill their spouses. I mean, this is going on in everyday life, brothers and sisters. Why did it come to this point? What happened through the course of their marriage? Why is it that you're trying to use that insurance policy in a corrupt way a little bit too early to murk your spouse and to collect before passing go? Because there's a lot of people out there that are falling for the traps of the devil. The devil, even in the beginning of time, okay, and Adam and Eve, when they were in the garden, Satan was strategic. We don't know how long he's been studying Eve. It doesn't say that Satan was in the garden for 20,000 years. It didn't just say Satan was in the garden for 2 weeks. It didn't say Satan was in the garden for 5 years. No, it didn't say the time, which means that we don't know necessarily how many years he was waiting, just like a lion, waiting to attack, waiting to set up shop. But I know this, and we know this is biblical, that Satan waited until Eve was what? Isolated and alone. See, that's why a lot of people say, and it's so true, you have to communicate with your spouse. If you have low self-esteem, if you have ego issues, if you have doubts or this or that, if you was molested, if you have trust issues, if you were bruised or battered emotionally in past relationship and not yet cut that umbilical cord of bitterness, you do need to rectify before you say I do. You need to talk this out, and you need to verbally communicate this with your spouse. Instead of you coming together and solidifying your marriage, these are ways that Satan can use you against your spouse. From a man's perspective, okay, he can downright disrespect his wife, subtly, of course, when it comes to her weight, when it comes to her self-esteem, her beauty, when it comes to her womanhood. You didn't have a baby yet. I want to have a child. What's going on with your body? What's going on with your fertility issues? Just browbeating her in so many ways. What's going on with you sexually? My ex-girlfriend did this and you don't know how to do that. What's going on with you fundamentally in a way where she's may not be just educated like you are, or may not have the types of degrees that you wear on your sleeve. You see, brothers and sisters, these things can chip away the fabric of your marriage. Your spouse should not be your enemy. Your spouse should be the closest person other than God. Of course, God is first. God is always first. But your spouse should be the number 2 person in your life. And no one should be closer than your spouse. That's why you have a lot of marriage issues. Because what happens is, instead of your spouse being second, your spouse is like 5th and 6th on the list. Oh yeah, you got your work in front of you, You working overtime, thinking, you're blessing your family. And there's nothing wrong with working overtime, okay? There's nothing wrong with doing that. But when it comes to a point where you are living in so many ways at your job, you have no time for your kids. You have no time for your marriage. You have no time for God, okay? You have no time for your extended family. Watch out for these subtle ways that Satan is usually behind this thing, thinking that it's a good thing. And he will try to manipulate you and put every excuse in the book. Oh yeah, you got to do it for your family, man. Your family needs this. Knowing that you got everything that you want and a lot of things that you need. Bills are paid, cars paid off, house is halfway paid off or almost paid off, and you just doing it just to do it. Huh? You just doing it just to do it. You just doing it. Oh man, I'm about to blow your head. I'm about to blow your minds, brothers. Y'all ready for this? You're just doing it because you don't want to be home. Huh? You don't want to help out with the kids, huh? You don't want to help out with your marriage. You want to avoid your family like the plague, and you're hiding behind work as an excuse. I'm trying to keep it raw here. I'm trying to keep it real so you can be mindful of the things that's going on in marriages worldwide. And then I want to talk about the woman's side now in different ways that she, in fact, can be used by the devil also. Sometimes women have a way of demeaning their husbands in front of family members. You see it all the time. You see it all the time. You go to a cookout, you go to different places. I'm going to just generalize. You go outside of your house and you enter the public world. And instead of representing your husband like the king he should be, like the head and not the tail, you're emotionally in front of him. Okay, as if he's not even there. You're talking to people as if he's not even in the room. Another thing is you don't honor your husband. Okay, when it comes to his decision making and when it comes to the way he feels about things. You have to always be in control and have the last word. This is ways, brothers and sisters, that Satan tries to chip it away. Another thing that women do a lot of the time is they sexually also compare their last experiences, or they demean their husband's performance in a lot of different ways. And they don't realize that when they do that in a marriage, that it not only hurts a man's self-esteem, but it crushes him. Listen, two things that would crush a man, ladies. You disrespect a man's performance and it could be true. Listen, it could be true, but it could be cultivated. There's different things that you could do in the bedroom, okay? Or different techniques or whatever. I'm not getting graphic, but different techniques that you could do as a married couple to cultivate that marriage and to practice to things get to the point where you're satisfied on both ends. But what I'm saying is, when it comes to the point where you're disrespecting a man when it comes to his money and when it comes to his sexuality in the bedroom, those two things can really crush a man on a high degree. Okay? On a high degree. And another thing is, if you demean a man in terms of his physicality, in other words, if he's not physically stronger than this man, or not physically in a way where you looking at this other guy on the down low and he knows it innately. He knows that he doesn't measure up, or he knows that he's not that alpha male, or he knows, okay, that you are not satisfied or this way or that way. It can crush him. It can crush him. So let's, ladies, try to cultivate. Listen, you picked him, huh? You picked that one and you picked that lady, brothers and sisters. So you obviously said I do for a reason. So it's either you stick together and work it out, huh? Or let the devil have a field day in that marriage. All right. So we want to build each other up. Another way that a woman could beat a man down is his parenting skills. She doesn't let the man be the father, be the parent. She wants to be controlling. She feels that her way is better than his way. She feels that he didn't do it right. Forget it. I'll get his this, or I'll get her that. Let him parent, sisters. Even if he does it not exactly like you, whether it be cooking or whatever the case is, anything on a domestic front, let the man give it a try. Because what's going to happen is, if you take that role of authority and not let a man be a man or contribute in the parenting arena, then he's not going to want to do it at all. All right, the next thing. I think I did 5, but I'm not quite sure. I want to talk also about a huge thing that not a lot of people in marriages realize. Brothers and sisters, I want to talk about idle words. And I know it sounds so small. I know it doesn't sound like a big deal. But the words we say to each other, we have to be mindful. It could be the littlest things that we say toward our spouses that really hurt their feelings, and they don't want to say anything about it. They don't want to let you know that it really hurt their feelings. But check out their emotions and their responses after you call them this or that, or after you treat them this way. Listen, you could be in the same household as your spouse and feel like they are literally a stranger. Don't let your marriages get that way. So I love you guys. Cultivate your marriages out there. Marriage does work if you work it. It's what you make it. But just don't let the devil get in. Bless the true and living God.